Welcome to another episode of No Reserve, Hagerty's podcast about the enthusiast car market. Now, we're here to help you make sense of the market, whether you're buying and selling or just watching. This week, we're talking about the Hagerty Market Rating, the point of matching numbers cars. We've got Shelby's last vehicle, the Black Ghost Challenger, and a red-hot Mercedes super sedan. I'm Larry Webster, editor of Hagerty Media, and I'm joined by Dave Kinney. He's the publisher of the Hagerty Price Guide. And we've got decades of experience buying, selling, and driving the cars we love. Plus, we don't just guess at the values, we're backed by the data of the Hagerty valuation tools. All right, Dave, we're recording this on Wednesday, May 31st, 2023. The last day in May. I mean, summer's almost here. And one thing I wanted to jump off talking with you about is the Hagerty Market Rating. There's a good story that came out on Hagerty Insider. Can you tell the audience about it, please?
Okay, so every month we have a rating, and we have a bunch of people. Some are Hagerty, some are outside, a lot of dealers and people who watch the market and all that sort of stuff. And we've been doing this for years and years and years now. And so we have everything from, kind of a flat market, expanding market, superheated market, all these things, plus, values down 50%. That's the throw the anchor out.
Is this like the classic car market version of the S&P 500?
Something along those lines, although it's
like an index.
It's an index, and right now we're at 72.36, 72, which is kind of in the the hot market area, but it's down a little bit. So everybody worries when things go down. So we've gone from kind of the superheated to the regular heated market. So I don't think this is like cause for everybody selling their cars or thinking about their investments again. It's just, hey, things go up and things go down. We've got...
Yeah, this was interesting because I was reading the piece and it said that the market rating, this index, it's sort of like a temperature check on the classic car market. It's decreased 9 of the last 12 months. And, you see any index, if the stock market was going down 9 of the last 12 months, you might be thinking, all right, it's time to jump. And you're saying, and then I was asking you, everybody, that the last time I noticed it was 72 was in 2015. So we're still at a really high. We're just not as supercharged as it has been during the pandemic, right?
Larry, everybody's been talking about this coming recession, and it's been coming for like a year and a half now.
Oh, yeah.
And it's kind of not here. So I don't know, exactly what this means. Now, one thing that I can say is that when the market rating goes down, it might be a good time to get back into the market if you wanted to. But I don't see a lot of harm going on here, even with this a little bit of a downturn here. Do you? I mean, I'm not seeing a decrease in activity, or certainly not a decrease in the kind of excitement around the marketplace.
No, it's super interesting. I'm not. And, I love this index because it does use a lot of math. It uses a lot of data, including like proprietary data, like the number of people who are calling for certain cars that may have increased, all these sort of nuances, plus, experts like you and dealers who've been watching the market. So, John Wiley's our mathematician, statistician. I said, you got to explain this. And he came up with this great analogy. He's like, all right, think about it this way. In early 2022, the market was approaching VMAX, top speed, and it's backed off a bit, but it's still in the upper rev range.
Yep.
Which I thought was interesting. So what does that mean? Does that mean prices are still strong and buying is still strong pretty much if you're in the 70s, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, I guess we topped out at 78.22%. And right now we're at a ridiculously low 72.36. It's not that big of a drop, but it looks like possibly this rating is going to continue going down for a while. A lot of the time, it's a leading indicator that we found, in terms of things happening in the market. I'm not seeing anything slowing. I'm looking out to August right now, and I'm not seeing anything slowing down by any stretch of the imagination through the summer.
Oh, it's so fascinating because I've been reading the same thing you have about recessions coming. And, it'd be fun to think about is the classic car market a leading indicator of a recession or a lagging, right? Does it signal a recession is coming, or does it react after a recession is here? And I don't know the answer to that. Maybe you do.
I certainly don't know.
You've been around a little bit longer, so tell me.
No, but I'd be rich if I knew the answer to that question. I think that, what I'm getting from it is we're getting off of the kind of superheated that we were. We weren't, like crazy hot. We were just really, really hot. And right now we're still, the boil is off a little bit. How's that? I mean, it's still, you wouldn't want to put your hand in that pot, but the water's not boiling to give you an indicator of it. So I kind of think that's where we are. I mean, it's not like everybody I know is saying, well, I'm out of the market, I'm selling everything. I don't know anybody has told me that they're selling anything for an economic reason. I know people who sell cars that are, maybe getting out of the, they want to get more, more late model cars, or they want to concentrate more on 356 Porsches or whatever it is. But I don't have anybody who's saying, I'm out. I mean, I'm scared of the market, I'm getting out. No one that
All right, Dave. I'm going to use a big word, and I got some theory.
Okay.
And I want to gut check it with you.
All right.
Let's. The big word is the fundamentals.
Yep.
And what I mean by that is whatever's happening with the market, I look at four things. Number one, there's that historic wealth transfer, both from the parents of boomers and boomers to the Gen X. Number two, it's the people over 50 are suddenly, this is when they start making money. The kids are out of the house. They have more income, and they are in a position to start buying cars. And then the third thing that we see is the number of the age of the people calling for insurance quotes is going down, and it's millennials. So you have like these three big blocks of people with money and interest. And there's also that, I think we still have that leftover, like, hey, I don't know what's going to happen. The pandemic, people are scared. They don't want to sit on the sidelines. So they're like, well, screw it. If I pay a little bit more, I don't care. I'm having fun. So those four things to me are what's still really driving this strong market. Fair? Where did I miss?
No, I think that's absolutely fair. And, as an official boomer here, I see that wealth transfer happening from not just the people who, passed away or passing it on, but also the people who are kind of, getting out of the, I'm not having 17 cars anymore. I want to have 8 cars. Now that's one part that I have seen. Some of the boomers are like, I'm moving. I had this, this place, and I had a 10-car garage. I'm moving to a place with a 4-car garage. And I'm making this up, but I'm seeing
You got the right kind of friends.
Well, yeah, okay, but clients, not just friends. But anyhow, I think we're seeing that wealth transfer really starting to level up now. And keep in mind, the baby boomers is a really huge generation, and we're talking, 46 through 64, the years 1946 through 1964. So the oldest baby boomers are definitely in their 70s. The youngest are still in their 50s for another year, I guess, and just getting into being 60-year-olds. But your priorities do change, and I think a lot of that wealth transfer is happening. And of course, the pre-boomers, that wealth transfer for the most part has happened. But this is a generation that does have a good bit of money, mostly from real estate, mostly from, they bought a house for $36,000. Now it's worth $1.5 million. That's a big difference.
Yeah. Now you're bringing up the fifth fundamental I forgot. That's inflation.
Yeah.
All prices are going up.
Yeah.
So, I think, in summary, a lot's happening, and it's a good time to sell. It's a good time to buy. I mean, prices are high. If you're a bottom feeder, this isn't your time. But, like we said, nobody's getting any younger. So buy what you love, and good luck out there. I want to move on to a piece that you wrote that I really enjoyed. It was about numbers matching, perfect cars, and it's something we talk about on this a lot. Why don't you explain it to the audience?
Well, I was thinking about this, and this is one of those pieces that started in the airport while I was waiting for a delayed flight. And, probably the best time to do a lot of thought, because you really don't need to concentrate on catching that connecting flight. So might as well do something else. I think about all the clients that I have and all the people that I've talked to, and, go into shows, and talking to people, and they say, I'm looking for a really super low miles, Porsche. I'm looking for a super low miles, 80s Ferrari. I'm looking for this. And I'm like, why do we chase that so much? I mean, those cars really can have problems from sitting. And as long as we're aware of that, that's fine. But if we go into it looking for that, 2,200 mile Porsche from, 2007 or something like that, number one, you got to check with the owner. Have the tires been replaced? It was the thing driven 100 miles a year for 27 years, that sort of thing, or 120 miles a year for the number of years it's been, or did it, was it driven and then put in a plastic bubble somewhere? That's a big problem.
Wait. I got to stop you
Yeah.
because you said something at the beginning that I thought was super fascinating that I don't know if many people are aware. There are people that hire you to find them a car.
Every once in a while, yeah. It's not what I specialize in by any stretch of the imagination. But a lot of times, it'll be people I meet at Cars and Coffee here locally, something like that, or people out on the road, and they say, I'm looking for this, and when you run into one, give me a holler. So I have a list of those cars, but it's not a part of my business. But every once in a while, somebody will come into the office, and there was a dude who came into the office, and I detailed this in the article. He was looking for a mid-60s, a C2, Generation 2 vet. His son was kind of vet crazy, and he thought it would be a good kind of, project car, change the oil, do this, maybe put, new interior in or something like that. So he wasn't looking for the world's best car, but he made sure it had to have matching numbers. And so I said, hey, why? Why do you want matching numbers?
What does that mean?
Okay, so yeah, it means a lot of different things. So
I don't know what that means. I've been doing this for 30 years. There was matching numbers. I'm like, what do you mean? What? I mean, the tires got to be replaced, right? I mean, what?
I know. It's insane the way that we search down the matching numbers as well. Let's just say for a Corvette, what he was looking for was a matching serial number to the engine of the car. So the Corvettes did have that in that period. They would have the last digit.
You want the original engine?
He wants the original engine. Well,
yeah, fair enough.
Well,
okay.
and that brings a premium. But I asked him, I said, "Are you going to be showing the car?" He says, "No. I just want to have fun with it. Maybe take it to Cars and Coffee." I said, "So why get a matching numbers car?" And he said, "Well, I really never thought about it. We talked about it for a while." I said, dude, you can save like 15 grand going in. This was back in the day, probably a lot more now. You can save a lot of money by buying a car with a non-matching engine." And I said, if you're lucky, if you get one that was installed maybe 2,000 miles ago, that, any kind of bugs that were in it or anything else has been worked out, it could be a perfect combination, having that, 65 body style. And in his case, he got a 65, and having a newer, maybe a crate motor. And that's what he found. And that car, still in my neighborhood, still around here every once in a while. I see it, maybe 2 times a summer or something like that. His son is now enjoying the car. It was actually the purpose they bought it for. It wasn't an investment to them. It was an investment in fun. It wasn't an investment in dollars. He sadly passed away, and so now his son owns the car. But it's just an interesting thing that he saved money going in. He's not going to make the super appreciation of having a matching numbers car going out, but he didn't care. So
I get it. So you're saying it's like a 50%. If you want an original car, low miles, the premium is super high. 50% or more is what I read in the article, right?
Well, it could be 20, 30, 40, 50, depending on the car. But yeah, it can be a huge percentage of what you pay for it. So going into it, save some money. I mean, it's contrarian thinking, both of these things. Don't go for a low miles one if you're not going to keep it low miles. Don't buy a 2,500 mile car if you're planning on putting 25,000 miles on it, because you can buy a 25,000 mile car, put your 25,000 miles on it, and your depreciation is going to be a lot less than if you chase down that 2,500 mile car and put 1,000.
Yeah, so it's just being real clear about what you want in the car. One thing I'm just gonna in the Corvette, when this car is made out of fiberglass and metal and had some plastic, but basically simple carburetor. One thing I'll just run by. I totally get it. I agree with you 100%. I buy those tribute cars like fake Shelby Mustangs and things like that, so I can just enjoy them and not worry about value. But the one thing I have learned is as I buy and sell cars that were built after 1980, the mileage, like there's some threshold. Once it gets to that 100,000 mile mark, I have found just driving it, you can tell. And there's just something happens in the age that is really hard to bring back. And it's little things like I had this Prelude, and these motors had electronic fuel delivery, and they had a lot of these vacuum lines. So if you have any cracks that are hard to find in the vacuum lines, they'll idle rough or they won't run right. Traced all that down, and then I found out that the leak was in the shaft of the throttle body. Now that's like, I don't know how to fix that. You couldn't really get a new one. So this is just something you had to live with. So those cars, it seems to me, there is a penalty for what we might call not crazy, but high mileage, where I would want something in the 30 or 40,000 mile range. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do, because you don't want it. You want it used, but not used up. And a lot of the times, once you get to 100K on a lot of cars, they tend to be that way. But I will say that the cars that were really taken care of by people who really invested in them, not so much. I mean, I own a lot of older cars, and the first thing I do is check to make sure that all the lubrication was done on the cars, because there's so many lube points on these cars from the 50s and 60s, and not so much the 70s, but there still were. It's amazing the difference it makes when you get the car, absolutely professionally, completely lubed, and then take it out for a shakedown cruise. And the other thing is tires. And I find that tires are just huge in terms of especially 50s, and even more so the 60s and 70s cars. Buying a good set of radials. And when I say good set, I don't mean necessarily expensive. I just mean a good reputation on them. Can make a
good brand.
Yeah, can make a hell of a difference in the way an older car drives. So, I mean, there are tips and tricks, and you're right, once you get into the 80s and especially into the 90s, when you get these little plastic fittings and stuff, it gets harder. But hey, man, it's a hobby. You should be tracing stuff. And
no, it's interesting. We're working on for the Hagerty Drivers Club members, we produce a magazine, and we've been working on, you wrote a great piece about what we call patina.
Yeah.
And what the age is. And, in part of our research, we talked to a lot of materials experts, because these cars from the 80s that had so much plastic, they're going to be a bear, because that plastic just ages.
Yeah.
Even if it's sitting in the garage, it just oxidizes. So, a lot to consider, but fundamentally, that article on Insider that you wrote is terrific. I wholeheartedly agree, enjoy. But I think we should move on to our opening bid. This is our section for past sales. There's a super interesting one that I wanted to talk to you about, and that's called the Black Ghost. I know you're well aware of this car. Can you tell the audience about it, please?
Okay. It's a Hemi Challenger. It's heavy, so it means a 426, 425 engine. It's black with black. It's got the RT and SE packages on it.
1970,
and it was a car apparently very well known in the Detroit area, because this car would come out at night and race against other people, but then disappear. So it wasn't like some club guy who would just hang around with the guys and then do some street racing. Apparently, this guy was very, very cautious about that. Turns out the reason why is because he's a policeman. So doesn't want to lose his day job when he's doing, his fun work at the nighttime. Not a kid.
Wait,
kids,
Dave,
don't do this at home.
Are we talking about a cop is street racing?
Don't do this at home, kids. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So that's part of the backstory on this car. This car was very well known in Detroit. Not very well known. Well, actually, not very well known, but known in Detroit, I guess would be the best way to put it. And so it's also an HVA car. So Historic Vehicle Association has made this. I'm going to look it up here. I think it's car number 20. Yes, it's HVA car number 28. So interesting in that way, too. So this is a very special car that has been around and was hidden for a while, and now came back. And it was sold at a Mecum sale, and it brought over $1 million, $1,072,000. And $500. So, big money for any car.
Yeah.
This is no pristine, babied car. It's a 42,000 mile car, and it shows it.
I mean, the reason I wanted to talk about this is it's a story, right? It is a rare car. It was an unmolested 1970 Hemi Challenger. It had this really unique, kind of like a gator skin vinyl roof, and it was not molested. So super cool car. But I mean, everybody just loved this story. Also, it was the African-American driver. He passed it on to his son. It had been hidden. His son didn't know about it. The Hagerty Drivers Foundation, like you talked about, got this car placed on the National Register for Historic Vehicles that sort of established its significance, and we did a great video on it, and it has 6.6 million views in just 2 years. So lots and lots of buzz. I did not get to see the bidding. The greatest, let's say, comparable car is the Bullitt Mustang, which got almost $5 million. Were you surprised that this thing is $1 million car? Or maybe tell the audience without this story, what do you think that car is worth?
Oh, wow. That's a really good one. It's a small percentage of it. I
$100,000?
I don't think the car would, on its own in that kind of shape, bring any more than that. That's for sure. Yeah. So, 10 times easily the value. People love stories, as well they should, that go with cars, because, these cars have their own personality. It's not just the people who bought them, but the whole reasoning behind it, the reason that this person did it, why he connected with it, and, how valuable it was to the family and his persona. And, it's kind of like it's a treasured member of the family at some point. And it's hard to hang on to these things when they become very, very valuable. I don't blame the people who owned the car, for selling it at all.
$1 million, you gotta take the money.
Yeah. But the good news is that I think that the next owner, having paid that much for it, will absolutely take care of it and hopefully display it and keep the story alive. And I'm sure that's what's going to happen. That's the cool part.
Yeah, I have not. The Mopars of the era are super interesting. They have a huge fan base, and the Challenger with a Hemi is also that was like a step above the regular Mustangs and Camaros of the era, right?
Oh yeah, this is an absolute a game changer car. And speaking of that, let's just make a quick comment on this. The Mopars did fine at this auction. This was the Mecum sale in Indy. All was known for kind of a muscle car sale and does really well. I was looking through some of the numbers. They were very, very strong there. Not just the Black Ghost. A lot of the other cars. And so, a lot of times when we're talking about markets like we were just before, sometimes things stay very, very hot, even in a market that you might see a little bit of decline. So, we might even see some increase in the next couple of months in some of these.
Yeah, muscle cars remain strong. That's what I'm hearing from the Hagerty valuation team.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, great car. Let's hope the new owner shows it around, shares the story. Like I said, that video is on YouTube. Go take a look. You put a car up there that you were keen on, that you noticed. Why don't you tell the audience about it?
Whoa. Are you saying that I put the Pacer up?
I didn't. I didn't call this thing.
I didn't put the Pacer up.
I don't know who did it. Maybe it's a ghost, but...
Yeah, we have a 1975 Pacer. It's an AMC Pacer X. It's very important. This was a day one car. It was ordered the very first day that the ordering was available on the car. And it's being sold by the dealer who actually ordered the car for a client. They got it back as a trade-in. It's sold for $37,000. Just about the same money I think the Wayne's World Pacer sold for, or right around that area. This was on Hemmings Auctions. It has 25,000 views, which is a lot for a Pacer. And it's a neat car. It's a 26,000 mile car, almost 27,000 mile car. And it looks like it's been well preserved. It sat on this guy's showroom floor for a long, long time after he got it in Chilson AMC in Lawrenceville, Pennsylvania. They're still a dealership. Obviously, they don't sell new Pacers anymore, and they don't sell new AMC cars anymore. But he kept it on his showroom floor and had it there for a long, long time, and just decided maybe it was time to move it on. So 37 is a lot of money for a Pacer. You either love these things or hate these things. They did have their heyday after Wayne's World, the movie, came out. They were a star of Wayne's World, but they were
the star as a joke.
Of course.
Right?
Well, yeah. I mean, they were, maybe not as a joke. How about as a tribute to the times, a tribute to the late 1970s or early 80s? So,
no, this to me, Dave, it's just another indication of the rapper car phenomenon. This is, like you said, it's got a great story just because, I don't know if it's a great story. The car never got used.
No, it was actually used by the person who bought it. They traded it in. They traded it in on an AMC Eagle in '87. But it's a fully optioned car. It has all the stuff on it. And it's a day one order car, so it was that interesting part of the history. There was some controversy about the Pacer X and what was on a Pacer X early on when you ordered it, and that's kind of the difference between maybe AMC and GM or Ford or something like that. Apparently, they didn't have it completely together, and so there was some stuff that came on later Pacer X's that weren't on this car, which is an interesting part of history. But vinyl top, red, all that stuff, air conditioning. That's kind of a cool car to have.
You and I are going to have to disagree. I think this is all about its low miles and unmolested condition. And, it's rare because there's only one. And, of course, it's got an 8-track. But let's hope the new owner enjoys it.
Party on, Garth. Party on.
Party on, Garth. Okay. Let's move on to our kicking tires section where we look at upcoming auctions. I mean, there's a lot of action right now. I have to, I got to come clean a little bit here on the one that I put on there, and it's a Shelby Series 1 that is for sale on the Hagerty Marketplace. These cars were built really, it was 1999 is the model year for this. I remember at the time, Dave, this was a Carroll Shelby trying to reenact the glory of the Shelby Cobra of 1962. And at the time, I was at Car and Driver, Dave, and all the editors there, they just thought Shelby was the biggest con artist that ever lived. And I hear you laughing, and I was like, these guys, yeah, okay, Shelby's a crook. But now, in hindsight, the reason they were all ticked at him was, I think in the 80s, he claimed he found some unused frame rails behind a barn, and he says, I am going to build continuation Cobras.
Right.
And of course, we don't know if they were real or who knows what, but then all these other luxury manufacturers from Bentley to Aston Martin, they all did the same damn thing. Jaguar did it. So,
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I guess I don't feel like he was,
Let's call old Shell ahead of his time. How's that? How about if we?
Exactly.
Yeah, we call him he's prescient. He had figured this out before other people did. Without getting into the Series 1 quite yet, yeah, he was a marketer. Shelby was he was a race car driver. He was a chicken farmer. He sold chili. My goodness, the guy could market just about anything. So when it came along, and this was the Aurora engine, right? The Oldsmobile Aurora engine. This particular one has a Vortex supercharger, which is kind of a rare option. They only built 249 of these. 80 of them apparently were supercharged. This one has 1,781 miles. But what I really like about this car, two things. I love the color. It's fly yellow. Most of them are silver. I keep seeing them in silver. And for the longest time in the early 2000s, they'd hit the auctions and, people bought them. They realized they didn't change their life. So they sold them immediately. They always were selling around $100,000 mark for a long, long time because there was interest in it because it was Shelby.
Sure.
And this one is also apparently was ordered by Tony Stewart. So it's signed by Tony Stewart. It's signed by Carroll
Shelby.
Signed by Carroll Shelby. And it's one of the last ones built. It might be one of the last, if not the last serial number. So all those things make it a really super interesting car. Almost a must for a Shelby collector to have one of these. This is CSX 5268 is the serial number on this car. Now, I do know they had build quality problems with these things. If you remember back in the day that the tops wouldn't match and they'd have trouble latching them in the windows and all that sort of stuff. Well, by this time, they got better at building them as the time went along. And by this time, I'm sure this thing's been entirely straightened out. If it had any problems from the factory, and I don't even know if it did, but it's a good-looking Series 1 car. Right now, it's at $82,000, checking it right now. This thing's going to pop over $200,000 most likely, as it should. I think the high in the price guide we have right now is somewhere around $220,000 on these cars. They're actually much better cars than people think, and so it's time to reimagine yourself sitting inside one of these. How's that?
I couldn't agree more. We really looked down our nose on it in the 90s, and as Shelby tried to, he announced he was going to make it in the early 90s. He said he was going to use the 4-liter V8 IndyCar motor. And of course, the entire world had changed completely since the 1960s when he first pulled this off. And the regulatory environment was so hard and so stringent. he really stumbled trying to get this thing into production. What's fascinating to me is he subbed in the Aurora motor, which is basically a street motor, and only made 320 horsepower. So then he had to put on the supercharger to bring the horsepower back up. But it had an extruded aluminum frame before the Corvette did. It had a carbon fiber and aluminum body.
Yep.
It's only 169 inches long, so it's 2 inches shorter than a Porsche Boxster and 10 stubbier than a Corvette. Now, the Car and Driver story, I remember there was a lot of promises to drive one so we could write about it. And back then we used performance testing, 0 to 60, quarter mile, to see if a car was legit. It was just a way to torture test it in a way. And unfortunately, Carroll's car was kind of a disaster. It never really ran right. But like you said, they've worked it out. These things are beautiful. And now what's interesting to me is like you have all these supercar makers from Aston Martin and Mercedes with the AMG 1. Those cars are not legal for sale in the U.S. You have to bring them in under a special exemption. So, Carroll was really trying to, maybe he bit off more than he can chew. And I think we're both saying the same thing, that in hindsight, this car is getting more love than it did when it was new. Yeah?
Absolutely. And it deserves the love. It's actually
it does. Beautiful car.
Yeah, you look back at it and it's now, 22, 23, 24 years old, whatever, in terms of its design. And it's starting to look even better. And, that rarely happens. Every once in a while, you look back at something from, 1999 and you go, man, that was the last escapee from the 90s. And this doesn't have that look. It's got a really good, always very aggressive, but a very good look. A lot of things in there that you can see in the later, not the C8 generation, but it may be in the C7 generation of Corvettes as well. So, ahead of its time.
It's cool.
Carroll's gone, but guess who's laughing now at at all the people who dissed him or scoffed at it or whatever. And you'll know that it was the professionals who didn't like him. The fans always liked him. I mean, he was always a fan favorite. And he produced for the fans. I mean, he had his foundation. He'd sign autographs for, if you give money for the foundation, he'd sign autographs for him. Good for him.
He was is an original OG influencer.
Absolutely. OG is exactly right. Maybe that's the way to end this story, is just say, in the automotive world, he could be the original OG. So original gangster. So
I mean, just so the audience is aware, the Shelby American, that company he built, had a huge influence. We still talk about it. Everybody talks about it. The cars are worth a ton of money. It would basically lasted 5 years.
Yeah.
First Cobra appeared in 1962. By 1967, Ford said, yeah, we're done. We're taking Shelby Mustang production to Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
And Shelby retired from the automotive business in 1970. I mean, that was a blip.
Yeah. And outsized influence, you could say the name to people who don't know anything about race cars, and they, you mention the name Carroll Shelby, they'll think of a Shelby. It might be a Mustang Shelby, it might be an AC Cobra, but the Shelby name still resonates, and it's time we get over ourselves with the Shelby the huckster. Shelby was a businessman, and he did a pretty damn good job.
Yeah, and married 7 times, and I bet, I want to know, in 1967, there was a Shelby men's grooming kit. Do you have one? Or you don't really need one.
I've never even seen one. I didn't know that.
Yeah, did.
Now, I will say that I, when it's time to make chili, I'll still go out, and it's still available in my local store. At least it was a year ago. The Carroll, it's a bag. It's it's like ingredients in a bag, and they still sell Carroll Shelby. It's not a specialty item. Maybe it is now. Maybe the last time I bought it was pre-pandemic. Probably was. But you can still get it at the store. The Shelby labeled chili powder. So there you go.
I never knew them, and I missed them already. But great car. I'd love to drive one someday, and we'll see how that auction goes.
Well,
the next one.
Hold on now. I did.
You're gonna buy it?
No.
Awesome.
I did interview Carroll Shelby.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I was warned one day, and they said he's not in a very good mood. And I said, okay. And this is a New York Auto Show. And, I got him to laugh. And as soon as I got him to laugh, we're good to go. I mean, I'm not going to tell you that, it was an easy interview, because it was not. But a good guy. Like I said, Yeah,
Dave, he didn't know who he was locking horns
there
with.
you go.
With
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
He should have been scared
I'm
of
sure he
you.
put it on his calendar. Who's talking to? Yeah, yeah. The original OG meets the original OG, right? All right, man.
All right, so the next one that I'm really excited about, and it's a little bit of a niche car. It's a 2009 Mercedes-Benz E63 AMG. This is on Bring a Trailer right now. It's right now on for $27,500. This car only has 13,000 miles on it, Dave. But before I hear your opinion, I just want to correct something.
Huh?
The 63 is not the displacement of the engine. We used to go crazy over this. It's actually 6.2 liter motor, not 6.3. I don't know why they did that, but these were really killer cars, and obviously the price is reflecting that with 6 days to go. I love these things. I don't know about you.
This is not my car. Okay, I like
not.
I like later AM. So, I'm not supposed to say that. I'm supposed to be the guy who's.
You want the turbo ones?
I'd be okay with an AMG GT. You know that. I love those cars.
Oh,
so
right. Yeah.
anyhow, I know. Hey, look, you're wrong. I'm right again. Or you can tell the story your way. But I like this car. I like it fine. Unfortunately, it's in silver, like every single AMG or every single Benz car is.
True.
I can't go back and change the order for them. So whatever. This is a Washington State car, which I say is a pretty good place to buy cars from. Not a problem state in terms of salt and all that sort of stuff. So, and it's got a great look. I mean, I can't argue the fact this is a sedan that looks like its business is getting places fast. So that's what I like about it. I don't have any problem with anybody buying this thing. I just don't want them to pay too.
Yeah, they're going to pay a lot.
I know.
This car. I think. I mean, it only 13,000 miles, was never driven. You look at the undershot photos; it's totally mint. But this car, I don't think it's only being recognized now for what a landmark machine it was. Because even still in 2009, we were in the heyday of the German sports sedans, right? It was like the 3 Series Benz, and then these were sort of the more executive versions. And I was a car driver at the time. I drove this one a lot. I drove the M5 a lot. And if you remember, the M5 at the time had a V10 engine and a manual transmission.
Mm-hmm.
What a combo. But over many, many comparison tests, we chose this E63 all the time. I mean, this motor's 507 horsepower. It just rips. And this was one of the first cars because it has an automatic transmission, but the electronic controls had gotten so good, it shifted so quickly that I remember thinking like, yeah, I think you want the automatic in this thing, which was like, basically heresy for myself. But
yeah, I know. Back in the day, now everybody seems to like the automatic a little better than they did, don't they?
Well, you remember at the time they in order to get around the performance sapping of a torque converter automatic, they made these things called SMGs, or basically they took a manual gearbox and they automated the operation of the clutch and the shifting, and they were terrible.
Yep.
Right? You could the gaps between the shifts, your head would go forward. And then, of course, the solution we have now is they actually have 2 clutches. They're called DSGs. And when one gear is engaged and it switches, the other one's already engaged. So it's like instant. But at the time, what Mercedes stuck with, they didn't have a manual transmission. This car was sharp, fun, fast. I thought it looked really good, especially this generation with the 4-round headlights. I think this one's going to go big, 50, maybe 60, 70,000.
It could be. Now, the original list price on this car was $86,000 before the options. This one out the door, looking at the window sticker right here, which the guy just posted apparently last night, as I'm looking at it now, is $94,505. Is $94,505 out this car. And this car in 2009, the E63 was listed as the AMG high performance sedan, and you can't. There's no 4 better words to hear than AMG high performance sedan when you're looking at a car like this. It was a limited market. They knew that this was an Autobahn cruiser that happened to come to the United States. So let's watch this thing. I don't think it's going to top $100,000, but I certainly wouldn't bet more than $5 against it. How about you?
Yeah, I think a headwind a car like this is just keeping it running. And I get it, everything's perfect, but as we know, rest is rust, meaning cars just get problems sitting, the plastic ages and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And these were very complicated. They had air suspension, and those air springs eventually leaked. That's not the end of the world, but 4-zone climate control, keyless entry. You know, it had a really outdated infotainment and navigation system. I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
I don't have the stones to take something like this on, but that would be my big scare. I do think that creates a ceiling. I think everybody is kind of scared of that.
Yeah, it could be. At some point, maybe, we'll get beyond that. I don't know. I mean, we're talking earlier. A lot of people are 3D printing parts, and I know that when it becomes a necessity, if there's enough money in it, somebody's going to learn how to fix everything. So
I know. Yeah, I mean, I've looked into that. You could scan a part, 3D print. It's just expensive.
It is.
You know,
hey, that one's
and that's all there is.
That
to
one's
it.
on Bring a Trailer. We should mention that because that's where that is and ends in what 5-6 days now, right?
Yeah, but look at that engine bay. You know,
I know. Look underneath.
You know, there's an old. There's a power steering line in there that's starting to leak. You basically got to take the motor out to get to it.
Yeah. That would not be fun. But it's a hobby. Yeah, but it's a hobby, right, Larry? It's a hobby.
Yeah, this one's cool. I mean, just buy it, go to Montana, and put the pedal down and just enjoy it. So okay. Obviously, I'm very enthusiastic. You put the next one in there. Tell us why you nominated this next one.
I just love the early Boxster. Okay, I've become a fan of the early Boxsters. I like the Caymans as well.
Dave.
I know we're going to have to agree to disagree. This one's on the Broad Arrow, as a matter of fact, and it's offered without reserve at their 75th anniversary auction, which is coming up. And everybody says, here we are just before June. It's the day before June, and when I think June, I'm thinking, oh, that's summertime. That's not here yet. Well, it's here tomorrow.
It's here.
Yeah. So it's here now. To anybody listening, it's a 1,200-mile Boxster. It's in, of course, in silver, Arctic silver metallic, over Boxster red leather interior, which I would say for an early Boxster is a good enough choice. This has got air conditioning, 17-inch twist spoke wheels, and a Becker CDR 210 sound system. 1,200 miles, going back to our. Do you want a car with?
Yeah, you want this car.
Yeah, I want
miles
this
for
car.
sure.
I want this car.
Yeah.
It's got a pre-auction estimate of what $30,000 to $40,000. It's going to do better than that most likely because it's going to be at the the Porsche Experience Center is where the sale is, so that'll help. It's got a very clean Carfax. Just like these cars, I'm not saying buy this one, but keep an early Boxster on your radar. I think they're going to go up in value quite a bit.
I mean, they were the cheapest Porsche, but these were landmark cars.
Absolutely.
Right? Because this was after the 964, 911 of the 90s, and then the last air-cooled, the 993. Those things were bankrupting the company. They were so expensive to make. And then they came out with the 996 generation, and then they used a lot of those parts to make the Boxster. And this car, I mean, at the time it was a revelation. I mean, they put the motor in the middle of the car, right behind the passengers. It was small. It was only 2.5 liter water-cooled straight six, but it's still at 200 horsepower. You got this power top that that thing was an engineering marvel. It just popped up and down. And then usually these convertibles, you remember at the time, anytime you drive them, you can feel all the body twist and deform as you're going over bumps. This thing was just solid and incredibly fun. They sound brilliant. I know I sort of made a noise at the beginning, but it's just those, what they call the fried egg headlights. But these cars are so fun to drive, and there's tons of them out there. So there's parts. So I hate to admit it, but I'm agreeing with it. This one, incredible car.
Yeah, and this one, I'm going to go back on what I said. I like this car in silver. It's one of my favorite colors for a Boxster. Most of them were, I guess, just like almost every German car, because no one has the imagination back
then. We just call it German silver.
Yeah, it really is German silver. But and once again, it's a car that was denigrated. Remember what people called these? They said they were secretaries' cars. They were Porsches for
Dave, don't put words in my mouth. I was writing a lot about these cars, and all I had was praise. I loved them. They won comparison tests. I took one across Route 6, the northern route that traverses Pennsylvania once. I mean, that drive is still very clear in my memory for just what an experience it was. No, I think later, when they got really cheap, everybody started they don't appreciate for what they were, but that's a mistake. They're incredible.
Yeah, I agree. Well, we got at least 2 or 3 things we're agreeing on.
Oh, we're boring everybody, Dave. That's no fun. We'll have to pick some stuff we don't agree for next time, because I think that's end of our stuff. You got any final comments this
Yeah,
week?
I do actually. I've been thinking about this because it's starting driving season for most of North America. For goodness sakes, do your checks on the car. Make sure your brakes are working accurate. Getting all that stuff sorted out now will mean that you won't have a problem in July and August when you're driving. It's a great time to get out, but it's also a great time because the weather. You can get out, you can go underneath, you can look for leaks, you can do all those things. I think it's next couple of weekends are being set up for for doing the routine maintenance and getting the stuff out of the way if your car's been sitting over the winter.
And they could just call you if they need help, right?
Yeah, because I'm a great resource for that. Let me tell you, I'm a certified wrench thrower is what I am. I get so frustrated. I'm much better at getting the MasterCard out than I am at fixing things at this point. But
I'm with you. I'm in the middle. I came out to visit my mom in New Jersey from Michigan. I brought my 1998 M3 sedan, and it's just been fantastic to enjoy that car and be out on the road. So once again, Dave, we are in concert, but it was thank you for everything. It was great talking to you. And everybody in this audience, thanks so much for listening. Please give us a rating, share us with your friends, and we'll see you in a couple weeks on No Reserve.
take care.